Welcome to Liesl's Artistic Studio. I have something really fun planned for today. I am going to show you the cheater way to paint these simple, quick, and easy snowflake watercolor Christmas cards. And the best part about this is that these are even perfect for a beginner painter who hasn't done much at all with watercolors. So let's jump right into it and go over a few supplies we need to get started. First up, we need some watercolor paper. Now, you can use larger sheets and cut them down to any size that you'd like, or you can even just do this on a larger scale and make it more of a decor piece rather than a card. The choice is really up to you. I am intending to use these as cards though, and today, to save a little bit of time in measuring and cutting, I've actually got a little 5x7 100% cotton watercolor booklet here that I can literally rip the sheets right out of and get into painting. I checked on these little booklets a little while ago and they are out of stock at the moment. They do have some other small sizes, just not the 5x7 right now. But I'll leave a link for that in the description of this video if you'd like to check it out or keep an eye on it. Hopefully they will get more of these in stock because they really do come in handy for fast projects like this. Next up, I just have some clean water and of course some watercolor paints. Now, I'm not using my normal go-to palette that you often see me using in these videos today though. A few weeks ago, I did a little product review of this Rubens paint set, and as I was testing out the colors, I just fell in love with some of the blues that this set had to offer and decided weeks ago I really needed to paint something that could feature these colors. So I thought, why not use them for these little cards today and see how it goes? But of course, you can use whatever paints or paint colors that you have on hand. I also have a couple of paper towels off to the side that we will need in just a little bit for this project, and then a couple of other tools that are really helpful with the bokeh effect that we're going to be playing around with today is this little plastic circle template that I just bought off of Amazon, and a nice stiff bristle brush that we can use to scrub off some of the paint color for the bokeh look. This is just an ordinary oil brush that I have just sitting here in my studio. Nothing too fancy, but oil brushes do tend to have thicker, stiffer, and more coarse bristles than watercolor brushes. So this will be helpful and will come in handy for this technique. And lastly, I'll just pull out one of my nice watercolor brushes from my own personally designed craftamo set. I just need this larger number 10 round for today's paintings. And as a side note, I believe craftamo is going to let me put out a second batch of these at the end of January. So if you're interested in potentially buying a set when they're released, I have a link in the description of this video along with links and information to all of the other products you see me using today listed in the description of this video that you can click on and sign up to be notified when these brushes are available again. All right, for this first card, I'm going to show you how to paint that bokeh background with the snowflakes on top. I'd like to have a little bit of a border around this particular piece, so I'm going to use some artist tape to tape down the edges. This also will help the paper to not warp quite as much. When using the tape for the border, you just need to make sure that the tape is down nice and tight on the paper, especially around the corners in particular, so that the paint and water do not leak or seep underneath through the cracks. Next up, I'll take my number 10 round brush and start painting some clean water onto the card. I'll fill the entire area with water because we will be using the wet on wet technique to help the colors mix and blend together smoothly. After I've got the water covering the entire area, then I'll start placing in some of the colors. This is the part where you can totally be creative and use your artistic talent and ideas and use whatever colors you feel like would look good. I might just play around with a tiny bit of a gold hint in some of these corners to play off of the blue that I'm about to add in. Now, I haven't used these colors for a few weeks, so I am just going to quickly test out some of the colors to see what they're going to look like, and then we'll go from there. I'm not 100% which blue colors I'll be using yet, since I am playing this mostly by ear, but in case you're interested, some of the colors I'm testing out and am thinking about using are Azure, Berlin Blue, Phthalo Blue, and then maybe French Blue and Indigo for the darker blue colors. My goal is to just use a variety of blues of all different values and hues. I think maybe I'll keep some of the edges a little bit lighter in value and then make the center area darker where I plan to paint in the white snowflakes, so that the dark color and the dark value will really help the snowflakes pop and stand out from the page. I'm just going to keep mixing, adding, and blending until I have a nice wash of blue color. There is a tricky balance here though. We want the colors to blend and transition into each other, but we don't want to overwork the area either, or it may go a little muddy. So just for some fun information as we work on this, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing bokeh right, so forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but the word bokeh comes from the Japanese word bokeh, spelled B-O-K-E, which means blur. This in turn describes something blurry or out of focus. So today we are going to be creating blurry, distant snowflakes for the background area of this piece. Okay, now I was feeling a touch impatient today, so after I got the colors here how I wanted them, then I chose to pull out a hairdryer to speed up the drying process a little bit rather than waiting for it to dry naturally. Now that it's dry, here comes the fun part, and I do want to point out that my colors did seem to be more bright when they were wet. They seem to have lost a bit of their vibrancy after it's dry, so next time I may add more color than I think I might need. Also notice that my wash isn't totally and completely smooth either, and that's okay too. Once as we start adding in these next few details, you really won't notice the imperfections so much anymore. All right. To create a fun bokeh effect with watercolor is super easy and fun to do, especially if you have some sort of template like this. Basically, I'll place the template on the page, pick an area and size of circle that I want, then using my oil brush with a little bit of clean water, I'll just scrub or rub the paint within the circle. After I've gone around it 2 or 3 times, I'll lift the template and use a clean paper towel to dry the wet circle. And you'll see that along with the water also comes off some of the paint that we scrubbed, leaving an awesome soft dot on our page. At this point, you can just add as many or as few of these circles as you want to fill or cover your page. I will be using a variety of these circle sizes to make it a little more interesting to look at. And as a side tip, the more water you use and the more you scrub, the more paint will come off and the lighter the circle will be. The reverse is, of course, also true. If you only want a subtle amount of color taken off, you really don't need to scrub it as much or as hard, and you'll get a hint of a circle. One more side note I'll just throw in here, some paint brands do tend to have more of a lifting or reactivating quality to them, which in turn makes the paint come off easier. These particular paints seem to be doing pretty well with this, so just keep that in mind as you go. It may not be a bad idea to test out the lifting capabilities of some of your paints and your colors on a scrap piece of paper before you do this so that you know what to expect. I have had so much fun this Christmas season with holiday paintings and Christmas cards. I hope you've enjoyed the techniques I've shared in this video as well as in my previous tutorials. If you found this helpful and are enjoying my painting and teaching style, I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any more of my new and upcoming tutorials. And I actually have one more Christmas card tutorial planned for next week that is perfect for people in a last-minute rush to get some quick and pretty Christmas cards painted. And trust me, this is one you won't want to miss. All right, I think that looks pretty good for now. You really can do as many of these as you want, and I just love the effect it creates, like lovely blurry snowflakes falling in the distant background. Now to finish this card off, all we need to do is add in the main focal point of the card, which is the lovely close-up snowflakes. Now you can use gouache or a more opaque white watercolor for this. I felt like these didn't stand out quite as much as I wanted though, so I'm actually going to pull out a little bit of white acrylic paint for this next part. And although I'm going to show a quick and easy cheater way to paint these snowflakes on, you absolutely don't have to do them this way. You can literally just paint in snowflakes by hand if you want or if you need to. But today I'm actually going to try out another template for this. I bought this many years ago, in fact, and have played around with them a little bit in paintings, but I haven't actually sat down and dedicated a tutorial with them. So I'm excited to officially give this a try today. Now, using my number 10 round brush again, I'll just dip the bristles into a good amount of the white acrylic paint, pick out and position the snowflake template that I want to use, and then I'll begin dabbing the paint onto the template, carefully covering up the open space. Now, the reason I'm dabbing the paint on here rather than brushing it on is because sometimes when you brush it, then the paint can seep or leak underneath the template a little bit, making the snowflake look a little messy or blobby, whereas if I dab it, it tends to stay more on the top. I'm also okay with getting a good amount of paint on here too. It gives the snowflake a bit of texture and almost makes it elevated, like it's sort of popping off the page. Now that the entire area is covered, we can very carefully peel off the template and see the awesome snowflake that it created. And at this point, it's a good idea to rinse or wipe the paint off of the template, as well as rinse your brush out really well. But I just think this turned out really good. I'm really having a lot of fun with this, and it's not hard to do. It creates a beautiful and elegant look. I'm going to only add one more smaller snowflake to this particular card, and then I'll call it done. But you, of course, are more than welcome to paint as many snowflakes as you like. I'm feeling like less is more today, so I'll just keep it at 2. Awesome job here. I am really pleased with how this turned out. I would like to make some more of these and maybe try out some different colors, like maybe we could add a touch of purple in the background, or you could even paint the snowflakes silver or gold or something. And of course, there are different snowflake shapes and sizes to choose from as well. Each card will be a little different and unique, which will make them special. Now, as I've pulled the tape off, you can see that I did have an area or two leak a little bit of paint underneath the tape. So to fix that, I can try scrubbing the color off with the oil brush, or I could even just use a touch of this white acrylic paint and cover those blobs up a little bit to get a cleaner look. Okay, now originally this was going to be the only card that I was actually going to demonstrate today, but I was kind of just playing around with the snowflake templates a little bit and had one more thing I wanted to try. So you can watch this experiment with me, I guess, and we'll just see what happens. So this time, instead of painting on the dark background with the white snowflakes on top of it, I just wanted to see if using some of these colorful watercolor paints on these templates could also make a nice snowflake card. So similar to what we just did, I'll pick out a snowflake, then pick out a blue color from my palette and dab that color onto the template. This is just going to be a little bit more tricky than the acrylic paint though, because the watercolor paint is more liquidy and runny, which also means that it has more of a chance to seep underneath the template. So just be careful here. Hold the template down nice and tight, dab the color on instead of wipe, and maybe try a more concentrated paint rather than too watery, and we'll see if that works okay. All right, moment of truth. Let's peel away the template and see how it turned out. Okay, not too bad. It isn't quite as clean as the acrylic paint, but it is still okay. I may soften up the color just a little bit by using my paper towel and just laying it over the top and very gently pressing down. Not only does this soften up the color, but it will also help dry the paint out so that now I can go ahead and paint on the next snowflake without having to wait for it to dry. And as a side note, in between each snowflake, you will want to wipe off the front and back of the template with your paper towel so that you don't get any messy blobs of unwanted color on your page. I'll just play around here with some different colors, sizes, and shapes, and we'll see what we get. I'm kind of planning to keep the snowflakes more in one or maybe two of the corners of the page here, and then leave the center open for some words. All right, not too shabby. This was also a fun little experiment to try out. This one just turned out delicate, soft, subtle, and pretty. It almost reminds me of lace or something. You'll have to let me know which method you like the look of better or which method was more successful and fun for you to paint. I went around and asked my family to vote on which one they all liked the best, and surprisingly, it was kind of even kilter, so I'm curious to know what you think. Now, as another tip or cheater way to get some more professional looking words on here, if you don't do much with lettering or calligraphy, all you have to do is print out the words that you want in the font that you like straight from your computer and then just trace them on. It really can be that simple. I just chose to write the words "Let It Snow," but you can also write "Merry Christmas," "Happy Holidays," or even just to who the card is to and who it's from. Well, that is it for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this little experiment and tips that we tested and tried out today. Make sure you don't miss out on next week's quick and easy Christmas cards. These will be fantastic for anyone needing last-minute gifts or cards to make or give away. If you did enjoy this tutorial, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.